This is FOX43 News feature.
Look how pretty she looks. Hopefully you look like her. So, all right, we're gonna start this journey.
That local man documented the moments that led up to one of his happiest memories, finding out that his wife was pregnant. That news came after years of struggling with infertility. It's a struggle that 1 in 8 couples are dealing with, oftentimes on their own and silently. Good morning and thanks for joining us on FOX43 Featured, our focal point, infertility. I'm Lynda Weed. Now, even though infertility is common, it's still often looked at as a taboo topic to discuss openly. Now, before we dive right in this morning, I want everyone at home to know that I struggled to get pregnant. I'm expecting now, but this pregnancy was not easy. I want to tell my story and the stories of others in South Central Pennsylvania who also had to seek help to grow their families. We begin with one Harrisburg couple who beat the odds and is hoping to break the silence.
Nice. Good kick, bud.
When you meet the Herrings and their son Avery, you would never know what it took to build this home full of love, learning, and laughs. Danielle and Willis, high school sweethearts, together for 21 years. So when it was time to turn their family of 2 into a trio, they never expected it to be so hard.
It didn't happen. And so finally we were like, maybe we should go get tested.
Not an easy choice. The word infertile is scary. No one wants to hear it. This conversation forces a couple to talk about their sex life, their body parts, what's working, and what's not working.
90% of the time, it's usually a third related to something related to the woman, a third of the time it's related to the man, and a third of the time it's a combination of both.
Then there are the 10% of couples who are unexplained, meaning they'll never know why intimate time at home isn't resulting in pregnancy.
Unexplained infertility doesn't mean that they don't have a problem. It just means that we don't yet know what that underlying cause is, because the problems can be a lot more subtle than the tests that we have available.
Dr. Kara Wynn, a physician with Shady Grove Fertility in Mechanicsburg, Cumberland County. The doctor the Herrings credit for bringing Avery into their lives. Danielle needed 2 surgeries to remove her tubes. Dr. Wynn then guided the Herrings to IVF, in vitro fertilization.
The good news is that oftentimes there's very good treatments. Surgery and treatment like IVF is very successful in those cases.
56 or 60 some shots over the course of a month or so.
The IVF process can be overwhelming and stressful. Self-injections at home, pills, regular visits to the doctor for tests.
Her numbers were great. Her follicles looked great.
High five.
You know, everything was like trending in such a great direction.
IVF medication stimulates the ovaries and helps a woman produce more eggs. Those eggs are removed and then mixed with the man's sperm. The more eggs, the better. But the Herrings' retrieval only resulted in 2 eggs, a very low number, and only 1 survived the fertilization process.
What do you think, Mama?
We had 1 egg and it worked the first time. It's not gonna happen for everyone, unfortunately. But miracles happen.
Willis is right. IVF and other infertility treatments don't always work, and very rarely with only a single fertilized egg.
It's good news, you're pregnant!
Are you serious?
That's awesome.
The chances were slim for Danielle and Willis to have a biological child, but they bet on themselves. The end result? Life-changing, to say the least.
Obviously, being a parent is challenging,
like
anything else, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
You are wanted. We did this, and this to make the commitment to having you because we wanted you to be a part of our lives.
IVF is expensive and doesn't always work on the first try. Each cycle can cost roughly $10,000 to $13,000, not including the cost of medication. That could cost between $1,500 and $3,000 per cycle. Infertility, for some reason, comes with shame. Women feel less than because their body isn't working the way it was intended to, and men are feeling that same shame. This feeling is unfair, so let your voice be heard, because the more we talk about infertility, the more others may be willing to talk as well.
You're feeling your baby move?
Oh,
that's
baby.
Wonderful.
A baby boy.
Good. Any cramping or just...
Telling others about my struggles with infertility took a long time to do. My husband and I are expecting now a baby boy in October, but the pregnancy did not come easy. Sadly, I kept the struggles to myself instead of asking for support. So now I'm sharing my personal story, including the miscarriages, regretful secrets, and how my own sister struggled with infertility at the same time. Our love story started the night we met at a wedding 7 years ago. Then came the popping of the question, and then 3 years ago, I do's.
Congratulations, you can kiss your bride.
Saying yes to my husband Tom came with the love and responsibility of raising 2 young boys. We always knew we wanted to add to our family right away, but that didn't exactly happen as quickly as we anticipated. So we started counting days and used a lot of these ovulation tests, claiming to predict your most fertile days. After a year of peeing on ovulation and pregnancy sticks, and still no baby. Time to get serious. We reached out to an infertility specialist. They checked to make sure my tubes were open, ran multiple tests, and even checked my husband's sperm. All came back normal, meaning I fell into the unexplained infertility category. No obvious reason behind my pregnancy problems.
I know that you've been through some stress, the whole process of trying to get pregnant.
Sandy Hoops is a certified nurse midwife at Woodward & Associates in Hummelstown, Dauphin County. She's one of my current healthcare specialists and has really helped me better understand why infertility answers are so open-ended.
Sometimes it just takes time. Sometimes there's stress, sometimes it's low thyroid levels, and they might be normal, so giving them a little bit of medication will help them to ovulate.
Medication and an IUI, intrauterine insemination, was what I needed. My husband's sperm was placed directly into my uterus while I was ovulating. After the longest and most stressful 2-week wait of my life, incredible news. The test finally read pregnant, but not for long. 5 weeks into the pregnancy, I expected to hear our baby's heartbeat. Instead, silence. The doctor said I needed to force a miscarriage. I don't know why. I just felt like, not that you would be mad at me, but I didn't want to stress anyone out. Losing that pregnancy was devastating. Even worse, I hadn't told anyone in my family that I was having problems getting pregnant. I finally opened up at this point.
When you finally came out and told us that you were trying and suffering like I had, I didn't even understand why you hadn't come to me in the first place. I've been there. I've been there for so long.
Heather is my sister, and she's absolutely right. Silence made that struggle worse. I missed out on having a support system, and also, I wasn't able to offer the best support in return. She was going through similar trials. It's just weird to think that there are 2 of us in one family that had to deal with this. Well, I thought it would be so much easier. Heather and my brother-in-law Justin spent 1,329 days trying to get pregnant. IUI did not work for Heather. 13 failed IUI procedures.
I did 3 rounds of IVF. Each one became a little more intense.
It seemed like IVF wasn't going to work either. Then a pregnancy and a loss.
It was our first pregnancy. And we were so excited and told our family. And it didn't last. So it was really hard.
She leaned on family and her husband to help her through this heartbreaking time. But it wasn't enough.
I would be out in the stores and I would have to go home because I would start having panic attacks.
Heather found a support group of other women dealing with the same struggles, but she should have been able to call me, her sister, if we had openly talked about it.
This dense cluster of stem cells, that's going to become the baby.
2 failed IVF attempts. At this point, Heather and Justin needed something new, so they changed fertility doctors and started seeing the team at Shady Grove Fertility in Chesterbrook, Chester County.
I just wanted to give it one last shot.
The Shady Grove physicians were able to retrieve Heather's eggs and create 6 embryos.
For Heather, from the group of eggs we got for her, I was expecting only to find 2 or 3 normal ones. She was super lucky. She got 5 normal ones to be able to work with.
At the age of 37, Heather now had 5 more chances to get pregnant.
We put one in, and we're pregnant. We're finally pregnant. Our first ultrasound, we heard the heartbeat, and we'd never made it that far. And every day, I'm just thankful that I've made it as far as I have.
A baby girl coming this January, growing up with a cousin that will be just 2.5 months older.
You're feeling your baby move? Oh, that's
baby.
wonderful.
A baby boy. It did take some time for me to heal emotionally and physically after my miscarriage.
The other issue is that if you've had a loss, this next pregnancy is super scary for that woman until they've reached that point, and even afterwards, beyond that point of where they had the loss. And they're called rainbow babies, these new babies coming in, and those rainbow babies are very, very special.
Tom and I were ready for our second IUI treatment. This one worked. We heard the heartbeat of our very own rainbow baby in my belly. That just keeps growing and growing.
Your measurements should be equal to the number of weeks that you are.
And growing.
There's that baby.
Now, my sister and I are openly talking about our struggles and are ready to take this next big life step together with no secrets this time. My one regret through the entire pregnancy process is suffering in silence. It is the one bit of advice that I can give to anyone that is listening at home. Do not keep the pain of infertility bottled up. Telling your story can make the world of difference to someone else. Coming up on Fox 43 featured Focal Point Infertility. There are multiple ways to add to your family, even for couples that are struggling with infertility. Finding the right mental and financial fit, though, is a big decision to make. We will break down some of the options. And later we'll introduce you to one strong mama who doesn't let the word biological get in her way, how she turned her infertility journey into a leadership role.
To have a baby, you need 3 things. You need sperm, egg, and a uterus. There's a shell.
That doctor makes it sound simple, but when it comes to conceiving a baby, some couples need to add a 4th element, the help of an infertility specialist. Now, as someone who struggled to get pregnant naturally, I fully understand how overwhelming it can be to try and understand all of the different family planning options. We are taking a look at the different ways that science can help couples make a baby and the financial cost with each.
A lot of times, you try so much of your life to avoid getting pregnant that you think that's going to happen right away, and when it doesn't, it can be really discouraging.
I started to go for treatment. I took treatment for pregnancy, and that did not work for me.
Ask a mom or more than one mom how easy it is to get pregnant. Each story going to be a bit different, but there are the few who try for months, even years, only ever seeing this. Not pregnant.
When I meet with couples, they've probably been on their journey for quite some time already.
Dr. Isaac Sasson is highly trained in reproductive medicine. He invited Fox 43 to see something very few ever get to, an up-close view of the IVF process, seen here at the Shady Grove Fertility Embryology Laboratory in Chesterbrook, Chester County.
An IVF laboratory is about generating a controlled environment, right, where we're bringing sperm and egg together, sometimes injecting the sperm directly into the egg.
IVF, in vitro fertilization, is the most successful treatment you can do using your own eggs and sperm or donor sperm, costing roughly $13,000. It's also the most expensive and most complicated. It starts with stimulating the ovaries with pills and injectables for about 14 days. This will hopefully produce more eggs. Next, a trigger shot, setting ovulation in motion, then egg retrieval, and off to the lab for fertilization when sperm.
So she just sucked up 1 sperm into that pipette.
And egg are combined, creating an embryo.
This is what the embryologists see the first day they come back after fertilization.
The embryos develop for 5 full days.
This is about 3 days of development, and this normally happens in a woman's fallopian tube. But now in the laboratory, we're doing it in the incubator.
This right here, it's the incubator, and it almost seems unassuming, but inside are 4 sections, and each section holds the embryos. Extremely important here, each embryo under the watch of a camera for 5 days, and after that, the embryos are ready to be examined.
Each normal embryo that we find has a 65% chance of delivery.
Each surviving embryo is tested before insemination back into the woman. The IVF process has a nearly 40% chance of success in women under 35. It's the best chance of success in any current method. IUI Intrauterine insemination is often where women start when seeking medical treatment, putting the sperm directly in the uterus and hoping it finds an egg.
So we'll give a woman some pills to take for 5 days, and then we monitor her response using blood tests and an ultrasound over the course of the first 2 weeks of a cycle.
IUI is a lot cheaper than IVF at just $1,000 to $3,000. It's also more likely to be covered by insurance, but it's also less successful. If IUI and IVF treatments are not in the cards for you, there are more natural approaches you can try.
You're questioning, is this right? Is this wrong? Am I choosing the right option today?
April Brenner was convinced she could no longer conceive naturally. She has 2 older children, but recently developed a condition making it very difficult to get pregnant. But IVF was not for her.
My husband just really was against IVF. He felt like, if it's meant to be, it will definitely happen. God has a plan for us.
April reached out to Naomi Whitaker, an OBGYN physician at Holy Spirit Hospital in Camp Hill, Cumberland County.
The key that makes us different is that these women do take an active role in their care.
She suggests that you use a calendar called the Creighton model. You use stickers to track your cycle, menstruation, even the patterns of your menstruation, plus dry days and ovulation. All of that leading to the most likely fertile window.
You can guess and say women ovulate on cycle day 14, but that's actually pretty rare that a woman is going to consistently ovulate on that cycle day, especially if she has infertility issues.
Turns out April is one of the women that ovulate later, not on day 14. Mixed with charting and treatment for her other medical issue, April is happy to say she's expecting.
That's the best little baby.
Another option for someone who wants to try naturally is to lose weight or change your diet before seeking help. If you plan on trying IVF treatments, there are grants and financial assistance programs that are available. We have a link for more information about those programs on our website. That's at FOX43.com. Coming up on Fox 43 News featured Focal Point Infertility. One strong mama is not letting the word biological stand in her way. We'll tell you how she turned her infertility journey into a leadership role.
I was extremely nervous, but once I was in with this group of women who were experiencing the same thing, I was able to say some things that I couldn't say out loud to other people.
Women helping women. That's the goal of support groups like this one in your county. The group's aiming to give couples struggling with infertility a place where they can lean on others and be themselves. I visited with 2 very different types of support groups and even sat down with a marriage counselor.
Everybody loved Baby Jack.
Because I was a baby, everyone loves baby.
That's right, everybody loves baby.
She's one emotionally strong mama, but Stacy Lutter wasn't always that way. In 2003, Stacy and her husband Vince were hit with a hard truth. Having a biological child was probably never going to happen for them.
I went to my OBGYN and she recommended some treatment for endometriosis at the time. She felt that that was really my problem.
The Spring Grove couple tried a number of medical treatments. Months and the months to follow, extremely hard on Stacy. She knew she needed emotional support.
I remember I was watching The Office when I was going through this, and Pam got pregnant, and I'm like, well, I can't watch The Office anymore.
So she found a group of women that truly understood her pain, a peer-led support group at York College. Years later, and now she is the one hosting it.
I'm currently on our first 2-week wait thing. Going a little crazy.
The group is made up of couples currently struggling to conceive and women who have stories and advice to share from their own experience.
I just like to tell people not to give up. If this is your dream.
You had a safe space. If I heard a positive, then it gave me hope that, it could work out like that for me too.
Stacy never did give birth to her own child, but that didn't stop her from achieving her dreams. Stacy and Vince adopted 2 boys, Jack and Grant.
I don't feel like I missed out. I'm so happy. I feel like our children were meant to be with us and that we were meant to be a family.
I feel like we were meant to be parents, whether or not it was our own biological child.
These mamas also strong emotionally and physically. Pregnancy success stories make up this Fit for Baby workout class in Lancaster County.
We're all moms here. There are so many struggles that go along with being a mom, and we like to think that everybody takes care of each other here.
This class for mom and baby, offering support to postpartum moms and women who want to grow their family but can't.
On the bus, say, I love you. 3 years of struggling, and we decided that, okay, it's time. We'll do in vitro. We're going to give it our best shot.
Melissa Finke is an instructor with Fit for Mom. She is raising 2 children, both born out of love and IVF treatments. She would love to have a third, but knows financially it's not an option right now.
You were 20 grand, because our first one was 20 grand. Our second one, we got a deal because it was a frozen embryo, you know, so it was a little bit cheaper.
Melissa and the other moms push their strollers daily at this workout class, saying it helps them stay in shape while working on their emotional well-being. The struggle surrounding infertility can have a huge impact on the home life, meaning your marriage. Don't be afraid to ask for help before calling it quits.
It doesn't matter if we're arguing about who didn't pick up what item at the grocery store, to not bringing in the mail. Those kinds of trivial issues usually can very simply be resolved.
Holly Rost meets with couples who say they have reached their breaking point. Husbands and wives sometimes blaming each other, stressed by not being able to conceive, plus the high cost of infertility treatments.
It is a scientifically driven treatment that is filled with intense emotion. Folks adapt and acclimate to all of the medical interventions, which exacerbate the depression and feelings of anxiety, fear of loss, and inadequacy.
Polly Rost also wants to remind family members of couples trying to conceive to keep watch for unusual behavior. She says if they are sleeping for long periods of time, skipping showers, and avoiding social gatherings, it's time to seek professional help.
Without having those eggs frozen, I don't think I would have been able to have the one that's cooking right now in the oven.
That soon-to-be mom having her first child in her 40s credits the pregnancy to her frozen eggs. After a divorce, that woman knew it was time to make the big decision that would provide her with a future family. It was time to freeze her eggs, and this morning we are breaking down the process of egg freezing. This includes the process for single women as well as women that are going under IVF treatments. Inside this tank and the others stacked behind it are thousands of frozen embryos, sperm and egg mixed together, frozen in time, until the owners of the embryo are ready to use it.
Most often if I just say, how many kids do you want? They'll say, I'll be really happy with one. But I always like to go back to what was their ideal family? What did their ideal family look like?
Brianna Schumacher is at Shady Grove Fertility. Her patients range from IVF patients who have extra embryos they want to save for the future, and women who want to just save their eggs now.
A lot of women who come to me will be single women, or women who are in new relationships, or women who may have something like endometriosis and know that they want children someday, but it might not yet be the time.
This is my favorite part of the day.
Dr. Christina Vittoria, finally ready to have her first child. But just a few years ago, she was in a completely different place.
Didn't plan on having my life end the way it did in my family expectations, and I decided one day that this was probably something I need to do to save my fertility.
Christina's life was turned upside down, facing a divorce. At the age of 41, she was single and still no children.
She said to me, is your ex-husband the only way to get what you want in life? Is that the only path that you can ever see for yourself in life? No.
She decided to take control and freeze her eggs. This gave Christina a future that could include a biological child.
I only had 22 eggs frozen, which is where they want you to at least be at. So, I mean, I'm older, so it took me about 4 collections to get to that point.
It didn't take long for Christina to find a new love. Her husband, Matt, and stepdaughter also on a new journey.
Without having those eggs frozen, I don't think I would have been able to have the one that's cooking right now in the oven. So.
They fertilized 11 of their 22 frozen eggs, only 4 of them strong enough to become embryos. and only one making the cut. But one is Christina and Matt's lucky number.
Knowing that I have my stepdaughter, knowing that I have her sister, that we have a really true family, and having that ability is it's just amazing.
Freezing her eggs in her 40s, Christina was lucky to have 22 eggs retrieved, and that took 4 sessions to do. This is not always the case. Women of that age should be prepared for less. Dr. Schumacher recommends making the decision to freeze your eggs as early as possible.
When women are younger, say less than 35, we expect the majority of their eggs to be normal, have correct number of chromosomes.
Women undergoing a major medical procedure sometimes choose to freeze their eggs before the treatment. Dr. Kara Wynn, a physician with Shady Grove Fertility in Mechanicsburg, says some medical treatments can take the option of conceiving a child naturally away.
So we do see a lot of patients who are diagnosed with early onset cancers, such as breast cancer, who choose to freeze their eggs, and it allows them a way to build their family after their cancer treatment is over.
If you have a successful in vitro fertilization cycle and do decide to freeze your extra embryos, you will need to pay a monthly or yearly fee of anywhere between $300 and $1,000 yearly, depending on your storage facility. If you want to freeze your eggs, professionals recommend doing that by the time you are in your mid-30s. And if you missed any of our Fox 43 Focal Point infertility stories this week or want to see them again, you can do that by visiting fox43.com. Just search Focal Point. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for our Fox 43 featured Focal Point special. I'm Lynda Weed. Have a great day.